This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Hey team, we have a new sponsor here at the Crypto Conversation, BitGet, one of the world's leading copy trading cryptocurrency exchanges. Yes, indeed. What happens if you've got the funds to invest, but you don't have the time to keep track of the market? You still want to make smart money moves. What do you do? Well, copy trading is a popular choice for beginner traders. You can shorten your learning curve by uncovering tips and strategies from more experienced traders. BitGet's copy trading platform has over 80,000 elite traders to choose from and 380,000 followers just like yourself who are already using the BitGet copy trading platform as a potential passive income stream. All it takes is one click. You can subscribe to an elite, profitable strategist, set your limits, automate your orders, and monitor their trades. I've got some links in the show notes below. One link will take you through to the BitGet sign-up page, give you a VIP discount. So learn all about it for yourself thanks to BitGet. And now it is on with the show. My guest today is Arjun Kalsy. Arjun is the head of ecosystem at Mantle, which is a modular layer 2 blockchain designed to help scale Ethereum and drive the mass adoption of token-governed technologies. Welcome to the show, Arjun.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show, Arjun. It'd be great if you could please introduce yourself. I'd love to hear a bit about yourself, your journey, and what you've been doing in the lead up to getting involved at Mantle.
Sure thing. So I've been in technology my entire life. Started with software engineering. I've worked across like different types of technology, enterprise, AI. And then in 2016 is when the journey for me started down the crypto sort of rabbit hole. I read the Bitcoin white paper, and then sort of got really obsessed with this idea of decentralization. And I've been involved in the space ever since. 2020 is when I sort of went into Web3 full time. So I was basically head of BD and growth at Polygon. I did that role for I was there for about almost 3 years. Then last November is when I left to join Mantle, and as head of ecosystem.
And what drove that decision to leave your role at Polygon and move across to Mantle?
I think Polygon, we had already met all of our objectives, right? In the sense that the company had become big, the teams were in place, the strategy, structure, funding, everything was in place. So I think we'd reached a point where I kind of wanted to sort of try something different, like go back to that 0 to 1 challenge, I think I really enjoyed the 0 to 1 process at Polygon. That was the most enjoyable part for me, the first 18, 24 months when we were growing the company. Post that, it was more about structure and sort of team and process. So for me, like that 0 to 1 challenge is what I strive for. So when I kind of got a chance to do that again, so I felt that, I should definitely take the plunge and then sort of start doing the fun stuff.
So you love that intense and stressful 24/7 startup life?
Yeah, I don't know what it says about me as a person, but I do kind of need I don't know, let's say a healthy level of stress in my life. I do love the hustle. I do love the pressure. So I think yeah, it's something which I find very satisfying and very fulfilling. So that's kind of I think what I want to do.
Nice. All right. Well, let's start to learn a bit more about Mantle then. Arjun, so I don't know how to start, but why don't you just give us what your vision of the high-level summary of what Mantle is?
Sure thing. So I can answer this question in 2 ways. So one is, so let me start with technology, right? So what is Mantle? Mantle is an Ethereum layer 2 network, right? So we're building an Ethereum layer 2 chain. We've used the OP stack as the base technology. We've made some very interesting updates to that stack. We've integrated EigenLayer as the data availability solution. So we'll probably be the first chain in production, which will have its own data availability layer. So it's a modular sort of a stack where there's data availability, there are fraud proofs, which the team is also working on. And then we have, the chain as all three as separate layers. So building in a modular sense sort of allows us to create a blockchain which is sort of easier to build, easier to maintain, easier to update, and it sort of becomes like a test bed where we can continue to add new functions. So I think it's pretty exciting new tech. We've also have some other interesting innovations like multi-party computation nodes to further improve security when moving from L1 to L2 and L2 to L1. So I think all things considered, from a technology standpoint, we're bringing something very interesting to market. We've based on our own testing, I think our gas fees should be anywhere from 30 to 50% lower than other L2s or rollups in the space. So very optimized chain, very fast. I think the second way I would answer this question is in terms of ecosystem. So Mantle is sort of unique in its history that it was born out of a DAO vote. So Mantle is backed by BitDao, which is one of the largest DAOs in the space. The DAO sort of decided that that they should build infrastructure, and funding was put into place, etc. And that's how the team was, project was born. The team was sort of hired and put into place. And then that's sort of, so it's very interesting how other chains sort of start centralized, then sort of, go and turn into and sort of a decentralized project by launching a DAO. For us, we were already decentralized from day zero, and we've got a very large ecosystem. So we have the support of BitDao, which has close to about 4 billion in assets on chain. We have the support of Bybit, the exchange, where we have the capacity and the ability to list tokens. We have the support of Mirana Ventures, the venture arm of Bybit, which is an LP in pretty much every tier one fund, like Dragonfly, Pantera, Holius, Lemniscap. And then we also have a few other companies thrown into the mix, which, Bybit has invested in over the period of years, like Yeehaw Games, which is a gaming company bringing Web2 games to Web3. There's also an on-chain DEX called Apex DEX, which is a top 6 on-chain order book exchange. So we already have a very large ecosystem. Our token is already liquid, listed on all major exchanges like Coinbase, etc. So I think from a community perspective, from a token perspective, from the dApps perspective, and just ecosystem support perspective, like we've solved a lot of the problems even before we've launched. So that cold start problem which a lot of chains suffer from, I think, we'll be able to do a much better job, considering that a lot of those sort of moving parts are already in place. And I think having the ability to take a builder all the way from 0 to 100, where we can start with sort of hackathons all the way to grants, to ecosystem, sort of to involving our ecosystem fund, and all the way to listing in one ecosystem. This is like a very unique value proposition. And I think something which would excite builders and users alike. So that's, I would say, a quick brief about Mantle, technology-wise and ecosystem-wise.
Yeah, thank you, Arjun. Can you explain just a bit more about how that process worked in terms of the transition from BitDao, which I think is the largest DAO, right? And so, how did that come about? The transition towards Mantle, which involves a full rebrand, and of course, I guess there was a vote. So just give us a kind of overview of how that process worked and what the intentions were behind it, I suppose.
Sure thing, Andy. So I think if you look at the BitDao ecosystem just generally, right? So BitDao has already made a few investments, right? They've invested in Game7, which does sort of investments in the gaming space, and there is EduDAO, which does investments in education. So as such, BitDao has been investing in Web3 projects, right? And teams looking to take Web3 forward. Now, with the advent of Mantle, we have our own infrastructure. So the way, we were looking at how the ecosystem would evolve for us, that Mantle would become the sort of center stage project around which, we would be able to build, very strong value creation and value capture. We wanted to use just one token for the entire ecosystem. So we've decided to sort of change the token from BIT to MNT, like the Mantle token. It's a 1:1 swap, so nothing really changes per se. It was important for us to have a new token as well, because the BIT token wasn't as such designed to be used in a blockchain. So some functions, etc., were also missing. So sort of we've updated the token design to allow for L1, L2 interactions, etc. I think what we also kind of realized is that the way our ecosystem was continuing to grow, right? It made sense for us to have like a common brand across across all sort of ecosystem functions. So, having a Mantle DAO, having a Mantle chain essentially creates, a singular brand which the user, developer, or sort of, let's say, Web2 company, like you're interacting essentially with one brand. So I think having that kind of brand rationalization was important. It just makes it easier for the user. Otherwise, it's sort of, it was a bit of a mishmash with Bit and then Mantle and then, having two or three separate brands. So we decided to have one brand. So as it stands right now, we will have BitDao will become Mantle DAO. All the Bit tokens will be swapped out for Mantle tokens, MNT tokens 1:1, and then essentially it'll push us into this new age, right, where we've got a chain, an exchange, and a DAO all working together in tandem, right, to sort of build out a large Web3 ecosystem and to sort of provide ecosystem support, right? Which otherwise, you don't see in any other ecosystem out there. So having one brand and one token across this entire ecosystem made total sense. Also, the rebrand was also important because Mantle DAO is going to be a product focused DAO. We're also building other products. So the chain was, like I said, the center stage project, but we're also building a liquid staking derivatives protocol, an LSD protocol. So we've got about 270,000 ETH on chain. We want to deploy that into an LSD protocol. Here again, we will be building utility for the MNT token. So if you see the token itself, it's used for governance of the DAO. It'll be used in the chain, in the ecosystem for staking, etc. And then it will also be used in the liquid staking derivatives protocol. So it's one token, one ecosystem, and one brand going forward.
And so I've seen you talk about, you guys describe that as simply, you said it yourself, one brand, one token, right?
Absolutely. That's the direction we want to head in. Build like value capture in multiple different ways for the MNT token across the entire ecosystem.
And so how we're looking for mainnet launch of Mantle, that is all scheduled to go ahead in July?
So mid-July is the timeline we're working towards. I think we are still sort of getting in all of our smart contract audits. So we've been doing the audits for a while. We've started getting the results now. But that being said, with the way the network has been performing over the last 4 to 6 months, I think we're pretty much on track for launch for mid-July.
I like it. All right. So I think on the Mantle website, and it's on the original BitDao website as well, in big capital letters. I love it. It says, "Our goal is mass adoption of decentralized and token governed technologies." And it's a great headline, and we know what that means, but put some meat on the bones. So what is the vision here? What do you mean by the mass adoption of decentralized token governed technologies?
So I think the best way to describe it would be, so Mantle as an ecosystem at its heart is community owned, community driven, and community governed. And what that essentially means is that the community has the final say in whatever we want to do, and which is kind of why we mentioned the word token governed technologies, because Mantle itself was born out of a vote on the DAO, which was voted upon by all sort of Bit token holders. Similarly, the LSD protocol is also being discussed and voted upon. Our ecosystem fund is also being discussed and voted upon. In fact, this entire rebranding proposal was put forth and then the community voted on it. So I think all things considered, if you just see the ecosystem, we plan to involve the community in every critical decision we make. I think it's super important to build, Web3 with, while not ignoring the core tenets of Web3, which is around decentralization and community ownership. This is something we're very committed to, of following this path towards building Web3. Yes, it's a little more complex. It is tougher. It takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, but we're committed to this kind of outcome, because if you're not doing this, then you're running basically a centralized Web2 company at the end of the day, right? You're not true to the tenets of Web3. So this is kind of why I think token governed was something which is very, very important for us. And I think it's also interesting how, when you start interacting with the DAO, you kind of realize that in any ecosystem like ours, especially where there is a huge treasury, there is an exchange, there are like a bunch of different moving parts. You need a body, or rather you need an all-powerful DAO sort of to act as a set of checks and balances for this entire ecosystem. So just like I said, that the chain was born out of a DAO vote, the community can also choose to shut down the chain if you start doing unethical things or if you don't stay true to the values of the community. So this is kind of why I think token governed is super important. I think governance should be an active part of large Web3 protocols, and I think growing by involving the community and taking their views and hopes and wishes into account is the best sort of growth, even though that may be a slightly tougher path. And I think once we start doing these kind of things, we'll become better and better with on-chain governance. And then sort of this will lead us into sort of a new era of Web3, where there is more community ownership, more community partnership, and I think this will just lead to better outcomes for Web3, as a whole.
Yeah, well, that's certainly the vision, Arjun. But of course, this idea of decentralized governance and the various different DAOs have had varying levels of success along that path. I'm sure you've seen some bumps on the road yourself. Just if we kind of take a step back and think about the path to decentralized governance. How are we heading in the right direction there? Is it just a matter of trying different ways of achieving this kind of collaborative incentive alignment? Are we on the right track?
I would say yes, we are on the right track, because I think governance is required. Like you want community ownership and sort of community involvement in your projects. Now, how you do that and what those processes look like is something which all of us, in sort of this decentralized governance space are trying to figure out. And it's a complex problem to solve, right? Like, so I'll give you just like you rightly said, it's been tricky for most projects. There've been several sort of DAO projects where, we've seen sort of people trying to hijack the DAO and doing all sorts of different things. I think whenever these things happen, you kind of learn a bit more about governance, and then you're able to implement sort of better steps towards governance. I think in some sense it's almost like democracy or how governments are run in countries, where over the last like literally thousands of years we've seen various types of governments come about, and it's only over a period of time where we've managed to settle upon a form of governance which also is continuously evolving, with which we used to run sort of nation states. And I think blockchain also, I would say in a very compressed timeline, will go through the same process, where through trial and error and by sort of exploring concepts, we will arrive or at some form of sort of governance framework which would work really, really well for Web3 projects. So I think we have to stay committed to community ownership and community involvement. I think with enough trial and error and problem solving, we'll be able to arrive at the right place. And then we will see governance become more and more effective and become maybe a daily part of running the protocol and protocol design itself. So I think we have to keep trying.
Absolutely. And if we use like a specific example from the Mantle or BitDao ecosystem, you mentioned the conversion from BIT to MNT, the token. There was some controversy there over whether it would be a one-to-one conversion, and ultimately the team or the DAO went with the community preference, but that was a little bit of a protracted discussion to get to that point.
Yeah, I would say this is exactly why governance is powerful and important, right? Because we as a team which is designing the protocol, or we as a team which are running Mantle, like we can have our own opinions, but ultimately is the opinion of the community which matters the most. So what we felt is that maybe sort of having a different supply mechanic could do well for the project in the long run, which is kind of why what we felt is, okay, let's put this out as a proposal in front of the community. Let's see what the community says. We'll be able to crowdsource more ideas. We might be able to find angles or different ways to think than we've not which maybe we haven't considered. And through that discussion, we kind of felt that 1:1 maybe is the better approach, and it's a simpler approach, and it would not require us to sort of recalculate or recalibrate several things. And for example, like just something simple like vesting contracts, which we've got going on, you won't have to recalibrate all of those things. So we kind of realized that having a 1:1 sort of conversion makes sense. And this is very important because we were able to crowdsource thoughts and opinions from the community. right? So whenever the team is in a dilemma, or whenever we sort of want to make, let's say, a major move, or move in any sort of major direction, it's so refreshing and it's so advantageous, right, to have a big community who you can depend upon for for getting opinions, for getting more research, for getting different thoughts on how we could potentially run things, right? And through this collaborative data, we'd be able to sort of make better decisions. It's almost like a hive mind, right, which is working together to help you make better decisions. So I think so. I wouldn't say controversy. I would say that this is exactly how governance should be, and this is how governance should be in action, where the team proposes something, the community has the power to course correct, and then eventually we decide on a path which works best for the project. And that's essentially what we saw with that decision. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, very well explained. Thank you, Arjun. Yeah, if we just go back to I guess the technical specifications of Mantle for a second, and get into the weeds a little bit with some of the design choices, I suppose. You say that Mantle has been built with a modular architecture that uses an optimistic roll-up. So this is the choice that you've made as a layer 2 to essentially help scale Ethereum. Why optimistic rollups? And I understand that there are different advantages and trade-offs that different teams have to make depending on what path they take. Why are you guys taking the path that you're taking?
Interesting question. So I think we did a pretty comprehensive analysis of the technology in the market. So we looked at all types of roll-up technology, optimistic, ZK, etc. And what the conclusion we arrived at was that optimistic rollups are a tried and tested technology. They've been around for almost close to 2 years, and have functioned without any major hiccups. It's a tech stack which is very well understood. There's lots of documentation. And I think, when you're running a project like ours, right, with the sheer amount of liquidity at stake, like it's always better to sort of err on the safe side, versus, going with the untried and untested new technology, which may sound exciting, but at the same time, comes with its own risks. So this is kind of why going with optimistic rollups was important. We also realized that to build a great sort of tech stack which would support all types of projects, we would need to have equal parts DeFi, NFT, and gaming. So if you want to support like a multitude of use cases, then you need to keep gas costs low, you need to keep chain performance high, which is kind of why we decided to also go with the data availability solution and build a modular chain. So this is so that we are able to support a broad range of use cases. I think looking at ZK rollups, of course, they're very exciting technology. There've been so many discussions on it. Vitalik has talked about it. It's sort of something which is sort of heralded as sort of the future of how blockchains should be. But I think it's still early days for ZK EVMs. They've only been in production for maybe a few months, still undergoing rapid upgrades and optimization. So I think there will be a time, maybe in the next few months, where ZK technology or ZK EVMs are more mature. We've been studying ZK EVMs for almost 6 months. So I think whenever the time is right, we will make the transition. Having a modular stack means that we can do these kind of things, possibly compared to other monolithic designs where making such a change would literally require you to launch an entirely new chain. So modular architecture allows us to sort of do these kind of upgrades as and when technology becomes more ready, more mature, and sort of more battle tested. So this is kind of why we made like these kind of design choices. It was mostly around using something which is well known, works well, has been around, and sort of has been stress tested. Then making optimizations which allow a broad range of use cases, but at the same time having a depth in all types of roll-up designs and chain designs which are there in the space. We've got a full stack research team and a tech team. And what that means is that while our mainnet is going to go live in mid-July, our eyes are already on the future. We've already done the research. The code bases are ready. It's actually pretty, we've done a lot of testing on this already. So I think whenever the time is right, we'll continue to upgrade the chain and ensure that, when we go to market with the best technology, which the space has to offer.
Very nice. All right. Well, as we finish up this part of the podcast, Arjun, just with that in mind, then that mainnet launch in July, and then I suppose the roadmap beyond that as everything comes online. Talk to us about any different ecosystem products or services or cool tech that you expect to come online fairly quickly, and then in the next phase. What can we look for?
Great question. So I think definitely one thing which we've talked about a lot is our liquid staking derivatives protocol. I think that's something which is super interesting because, essentially it allows us to sort of provision liquidity for any sort of protocol building on Mantle. So I think this is something which is very interesting and very unique to us. I think in terms of projects, if you look at our ecosystem, we have our own liquidity, we've got our own exchange. And what that means is that we have the ability to sort of build our own, you could say, blue chip projects in some sense. We can accelerate projects like no other ecosystem can. So what that means is that we want to build an ecosystem which is very true to sort of true to the cause of Web3. We want to support new builders, new types of concepts. We want to be the chain where, builders, whether it's DeFi, NFT, gaming, can come and build exciting new technology, push the sort of frontier and barriers of what Web3 is capable of. So this is kind of what you can expect to see in our ecosystem. Lots of new projects, lots of new tokens, and all sorts of interesting new kinds of concepts. We're in touch with several teams. I think last when I looked at the BD pipeline, we had reached out to almost 600 plus projects. So all of whom are in some sense interested in working with us. So we've got a big pipeline. In terms of projects, expect to see lots of new interesting projects. Expect to see fairly large projects in gaming and NFT go live with us. And as time progresses, you'll see more and more adoption of the network. So I think there's a lot of exciting new protocols which we're going to be bringing to market. So stay tuned. And if you follow our channel on Twitter, you'll get to see all the latest updates.
Awesome. Great to hear, Arjun. All right, well, just tell people then where they can go to find out all about Mantle and the various parts of the ecosystem that you guys are bringing together. And look, shout out the Twitter handles, whatever you want to do.
All right. So in terms of where you can learn more about Mantle, I would say our website is a great place to start, where you've got all the information in one place. Outside of that, following us on our social media channels, like following us on Twitter, being a part of our Telegram and Discord community, you can kind of see, all the different discussions which the community is having. On our Twitter, we keep sharing updates on the network, on core partnerships, etc. So if you just I would just encourage people to become a part of our community and start interacting, and then you'll get to sort of see all the different interesting things we're working on. And then on sort of, have sort of, let's say, access to early alpha with respect to Mantle.
Fantastic. And look, the link to the website will be in the show notes, people, but otherwise it is simply mantle.xyz. Let's go to a very quick break, and then we will come back. We'll have some fun. We'll finish off, and we will run Arjun through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
Look, we'd all like to say we're pro traders, but the reality is we're probably not. But with BitGet, you don't have to be. Why? Because BitGet is the world's largest copy trading exchange. Instead of you muddling through it on your own, feel confident. BitGet allows you to automatically copy trade from over 80,000 elite traders with 24/7 support on our secure copy trading platform. Start following expert traders on bitget.com. Check for details in the show notes and join BitGet today.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Arjun Kalsy. Arjun is the head of ecosystem at Mantle, the modular layer 2 blockchain designed to help encourage the mass adoption of token-governed technologies at scale. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Arjun, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm just going to run some questions at you, Arjun. Just give me kind of, quick, snappy, hot take style answers, whatever you want to say. Question one, I think I know the answer, but where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I would say I'm closer to the multi-chain opportunist sort of side than I would say the Bitcoin maximalist side.
Yeah, that does not surprise me. All right, Arjun, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I think the firmest conviction which I have is that mass adoption is quite literally around the corner. I think we've seen killer sort of use cases in DeFi, and we'll see those in gaming and NFT as well. So that's like my firmest conviction, that this technology is here to stay.
All right.
And yeah, mass adoption is around the corner. Yeah.
UBI as a potential fix for AI-induced automation. What do you think? Good idea?
I would say that we need to first. Try the idea before we decide it's good or not. I think there will be job losses, but I do feel AI will also create a new class of jobs. So maybe re-education or some sort of other kind of tactic along with UBI would have to be applied. So I think we need to, just like with DAO governance, you need to try this out before we settle upon, yeah, this is the best idea or not.
Yeah, that's a great point. You don't know until you try, and you don't learn how to do it until you do it a few times.
Pretty much.
Certainly learn that in startup school, don't we, Arjun? Look, hey, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. As someone who's been building in startups for the last 5-10 years, you'll be very familiar with this concept. But with that in mind, Arjun, look, 10 years time, Web3, what does it look like?
I think it's ubiquitous now. It's Web3 is like the internet in 10 years time. Most of the times people are transacting trustlessly. You don't even know that there is a blockchain at the back end. You don't even know that there's a smart contract being triggered, etc. It's just like the internet in 10 years. It's ubiquitous. Like you don't think about it. You don't think about your internet connection or fiber optic cables or TCP/IP. Like it's automatic, and that's how it's going to be in Web3 in 10 years.
Yes, indeed. Like it. All right. Flip side of that, of course, is a quote by William Gibson, who said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, Arjun, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
I would say a good example of this is AI itself, where we see AI algorithms and data are being harnessed by, again, the same companies which are which sort of operate the internet like a hegemony, and that's kind of the same. We should, and Web3 we have to try to not make the same mistake. We have to ensure it's more evenly distributed. But you can kind of already see what's happening with AI, where the technology is being crowded out by 3 or 4 different companies, and then it'll again become centralized and concentrated, which I don't think is good for the space or for the world.
Absolutely agree. All right, time to get weird just for a second. If we zoom out, what is the, if we haven't got weird enough already, if we zoom out, what is the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
That's a great question. I actually see utopia. I think as a human race or as a civilization, we've come so close to destroying ourselves several times, but we're still here, right? So I do feel that in the end, whatever our faults may be as a species, I think at some level we will still win out, and we will move towards a optimistic and and a better future. I genuinely believe that.
I hope you're right. All right, final question, Arjun. What is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
I think favorite one, hands down, is Star Trek. Yeah,
nice. One of the originals, and certainly one of the true utopian sci-fi franchises.
Yeah, that's exactly where my optimism comes from. At some point, so that's what I grew up watching from very young age. I've seen pretty much all the different Star Treks there exist. So yeah.
All right. Well, hey, it's been fun talking to you, Arjun. We've gone from optimistic roll-ups to optimistic sci-fi and everything in between. Please, look, finish it out again just by telling people what they should do if they want to, start to get involved and keep up to date with what you and the Mantle team and DAO and Treasury are building.
100%. So I would just say that, I encourage people to just be a part of the community. I mean, if you're a user, just follow us on Twitter, stay and try out some of the dApps which are building on our network, see what the experience is like. If you're a builder, we're doing a ton of builder activations, hackathons. We have a grant program, etc. So I encourage you guys, as a developer, to deploy your projects, to again give us feedback on the network. Like, if you're into governance, I encourage you to join the forums and take part in our discussions. So I think depending on the spectrum of Web3, wherever you sit and what you're interested in, like, we have something to offer. And I encourage you guys to, just sort of be a part of our community, give us feedback on what we can do better. And in this manner, we can, continue to sort of build what's best for Web3 as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arjun. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you so much, Andy. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, there you go. That was Arjun from Mantle. Mantle looks good. Yep, mantle.xyz. And yeah, that's a good line. We covered everything from optimistic roll-ups to optimistic sci-fi, Star Trek. Easy as that. Thanks for listening, team. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using. But that is today's show. Thank you again. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.